creating a new zone via System DNS Zones Manager. For example, create a domain kkkbbb.com, use new zone, kkkbbb.com and press create button. In the diagram above, we create a zone by entering kkkbbb.com and hit create button. Types of DNS records. By clicking the domain name, it will display different types of records in DNS server for the people to fill in. Those are SOA name server, NS record, host address, a record, canonical name, mail exchanger, MX record, SPF, sender policy framework for email verification, text record, SRV. The items shown on the top are those records in DNS server for different purposes. By pressing those buttons on the top, it will lead you to fill those records in DNS server. Here, we just introduce the usages of those records without getting into details. For more information, you should just refer to the literature for DNS server. Immediately, you can specify the IP address, ES, for the host, S, in your domain. Usually, it does not need to type fully qualified host name, it only needs to type as www, or mail. If fully qualified host name is entered, it needs to have a trailing dot at the end. For example, host name, kkkbbb.com. Address, 61.2.3.4. Please notice that there is a dot after kkkbbb.com. SOA, start of authority record. SOA is defined in IETF RFC 1035. It is to deal with those global parameters for the domain. As a DNS server, it does not entertain the queries for name resolving from its own database. If a host name cannot be resolved from its local database, the DNS server will issue the query to higher layer DNS servers. When the query result is returned from higher layer DNS servers, it would keep the result for a period of time so that it can respond the same queries from its DNS clients without asking higher layer DNS servers during this period. On the other hand, some higher layer DNS servers might query this DNS server for its local records. Usually, this happens when you set the records in your domain name registration vendor to indicate that you want to use this DNS server for keeping the records of the domain name, you purchase. The parameters in this screen are setting the limit for those queries or zone transfer in the scenarios mentioned above so that the DNS would be protected by avoiding overpolling from others. Serial number. The serial number is used for tracking the DNS record change history. The serial number shall always increase while changes are made so that the other hosts will know there are changes. Refresh period. This is the time for a secondary domain name server to come back to get a copy of the zone. So, it will know if there is new copy. Retry interval. If an attempt to make refresh fails, it will wait for another period of time to try again. Retry interval specifies the time for waiting to retry. Expiration period. The secondary domain name server, will use this to know how long it should hold this information to consider it as authoritative. It should be larger than retry interval and minimum TTL. Minimum TTL. TTL stands for time to live. TTL is used that how much time the record shall be kept. Usually, TTL will be specified in any resource record, denoted as RR in DNS terminology. If there is no TTL specified in a resource record, it will use this minimum TTL name server, NS records. In each subdomain, it should have at least one name server for that domain, and that name server is indicated in NS record. And each primary and secondary DNS server for each domain should have NS record. Name, canonical name. Name is used to define an alias for a host name. Mail exchange, MX record. MX record is used to indicate which host, shall be used to receive emails for that domain. For example, if someone wants to send an email to xyz@kkkbbb.com, what is the machine at kkkbbb.com responsible for receiving emails? The correct answer is, people should send to the machine where MX record is pointing to for that domain. To play safe, you might also configure the domain name itself, in this case, kkkbbb.com, to the IP address of the host you wish to use to receive emails. SPF, Sender Policy Framework. SPF is used for the other mail servers to verify the validity of email sender IP address. It is implemented by using text record in DNS server. So, when you refer to other DNS literature, you would find out SPF should belong to text record. We just list it separately so that it can be configured easily without dealing with text record directly. However, once SPF is entered, you can check it how it looks like in text record. The purpose of SPF is to let the other email servers know which host, can send out emails on behalf of that domain. If an email server receives an email from a host without being listed in SPF of DNS server, that email could come from spammer by just faking the domain name in the email address. Text records, text. Some of the other email verification mechanisms are using text records in DNS for verifying the sender address of emails, for instance, DKIM, domain key, SPF, and sender ID. They have their own protocols to specify certain types of text records in DNS. We are not going to introduce them in this section. For more details, you should look into the section for email authentication. Some of the information needs to be obtained from email server you use so that the other email servers can verify accordingly from DNS server. SRV record, service record. The usage of SRV records is similar to MX records, but SRV records are used to indicate the SIP, and XMPP or other standardized communication protocols. It is with the following format: _service._proto.name TTL class SRV priority wait port target, for example, _SIP._UDP.example.com. 86400 in SRV 055060 SIP server.example.com _XMPP-client._TCP.example.com. 86400 in SRV 10.05222 XMPP.example.com _XMPP-server._TCP.example.com. 86400 in SRV 10.05269 XMPP.example.com. It indicates the protocol, TCP or UDP, and port to be used on the target server for a specific service. DNS server setting. After filling in those records, it is necessary to restart DNS server. Those records can be reloaded via a system DNS server setting. Every time when any parameter is changed, it is necessary to go back to the screen and press reset to reload the newly updated parameter, S. Domain query. In some occasions, it is necessary to know if a name can be resolved successfully. This can be done from the screen system DNS domain query. Please note that the host lookup result will come from the DNS server you choose for this machine. If this machine is a DHCP client, the DNS server for this machine would be obtained from DHCP server. To find registration record of a domain, people can use HOI to find out who is the owner of that domain and its DNS server, S. DNS data backup and restoration. The setting in DNS server can be saved and restored by using the screen system DNS backup and restore indicated below. Data storage and backup. The server allows users to put the files on this machine via FTP, Samba, or the web interface or webmail/groupware. Storage and backup. Server will back up the data at scheduled time every day. The incremental backup will be done during weekdays and the full backup will be done during weekends. The user account backup 0 can be used to retrieve the backup data. To save the data, it might need the external storage space via ISCSI, ATA over Ethernet, or NFS to mount remote file system on a local directory. We will introduce the data backup process first. Backup schedule time. This function only exists in VED build. You can specify the time by doing data backup at the given time every day. The backup process will be initiated every day at the time specified here. If data backup needs to perform several times a day, you need to enter the backup schedule one by one. Backup action rules. This function only exists in VED build. During the backup process, each user's TMP directory under his/her home directory in this backup machine, /home/user_ID/TMP, will be deleted if you specify here. And under any circumstance, data under that TMP directory of each user in this backup machine will not be stored by backup process. Another reason to do that is because the extraction process will restore the historical data in that directory. Thus, it is advised that try not to use that directory to do something else. In general, incremental backup will be performed every day. The whole data backup will be performed during weekend. Thus, you can specify how many whole backups, along with the incremental backups, you would like to keep, in units of week, in the backup server. Please note, for data under /home, the backup process will keep those daily incremental backup and whole backup under /backup 0, and for data automatically fetched from other hosts, /backup will be used to store them. Thus, if you want to use bigger hard drive, S, you can mount the bigger hard drives to the directories mentioned above via console's command line interface to adjust that. Disk threshold alert. This function only exists in VED build. If backup data usage is over specific percentage of the hard disk capacity, the server will send out alerts. Percentage can be specified in the backup rules and the mail list can be specified here. The system will send out emails to those people listed in the mail list when the disk usage is over the percentage specified here. To send out emails successfully, you shall consider using mail relay if the server is not a mail server.